Okay, so I have 3 articles for you today. 2 are a bit amusing, and the third one, not amusing at all. Not at all. So let's start off with CNN anchor embarrasses White House counterterrorism chief over false transgender mass shooter stats. And I've seen that in my own comments of how somehow, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, that somehow most school mass shooters are somehow trans, when I might know of 2, 3 mass shooters that were trans, and all of them were cis male. Like I mentioned in a previous video, this particular person pointed out Parkland shooter, which that trial was followed. There is absolutely nothing in the trial that even hinted that he was trans. So I don't know if this person wants to troll me, or that Fox News has rotted their brain so much that they don't even bother to use their brain anymore because it's dead. Anyway, let's get to the article. On Sunday, CNN anchor Brianna Keilar challenged White House counterterrorism director Sebastian Gorka after he advanced a debunked narrative that transgender people are disproportionately responsible for mass shootings. The exchange came days after a massacre in Minneapolis where 23-year-old Robin Westman, who was trans, opened fire during a back-to-school mass at Annunciation Catholic School, killing 2 children and wounding at least 17 others before dying of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. While investigators probe Westman's motives for the Wednesday shooting, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey warned against scapegoating. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. Kids died. This needs to be about them, he said. He also went on to say, don't be talking about thoughts and prayers, because these kids were literally praying. So anyway, yes, I very much like this mayor. Still, on national television, Gorka falsely argued that there have been 7 transgender shooters in recent years. That is not 3. Keilar pushed back, citing the U.S. Secret Service Threat Assessment Center's review of 172 mass attacks from 2016 to 2020, who found 96% of perpetrators were cisgender men. Are you missing the bigger picture here when you zero in on that instead of, more broadly, these school shooters as an epidemic, she asked. Gorka rejected the data as pseudo-facts. Isn't it awesome that you can just ignore facts that you don't like as fake? Because, they've decided they're going to create their own reality and people have to live in it whether we want to or not. And pointed instead to a list he had posted on X, formerly Twitter. It included Audrey Hale, who killed 6 in Nashville in 2023, Alec McKinney, who in 2019 carried out the STEM School Highlands Ranch attack in Colorado, and Snochia Mosley, who killed 3 at a Rite Aid warehouse in Maryland in 2018. But he also listed Dylan Butler, a 17-year-old who killed 1 student in Perry, Iowa, despite no evidence that Butler identified as transgender. Anderson Lee Aldrich, who murdered 5 in Colorado Springs at Club Q in 2022, although Aldridge's non-binary claim is disputed, giving expressed anti-LGBTQ views, and Kim Brady Carricker, who killed 5 in Philadelphia in 2023, whom prosecutors said was not transgender. When Kylar cited CNN's own count of 32 major school shootings since 2020, only 3 of which involved trans shooters, that's probably the ones I was thinking of, Gorka replied, "Forgive me if I don't go with CNN stats. CNN has proven itself to be wholly inaccurate. And yet here you are on CNN." Funny how that works. The Advocate has previously reported that out of more than 4,600 mass shootings between 2014 and 2024, at most 6 involved transgender suspects, just 0.128%. Cisgender men committed the overwhelming majority. But we don't want to think about facts because we want to vilify an already vilified community and at-risk community. "We can't stick with your facts because they're not accurate," Kylar told Gorka. "In fact, in 2 of the cases you've cited, there's no evidence the individuals were trans." Gorka shot back, accusing her of pushing an agenda and calling her corrections fake news. Why is it that every accusation with these people is a confession? When he accuses her of having an agenda, it's him who has an agenda. He wants to vilify trans people because he hates trans people. So obviously trans people must be bad if he hates them. Because, people like this don't want to see themselves as bad people, so they can't accept that they could be wrongfully vilifying people. They have to come up with valid reasons why they hate a certain group because they just can't accept that they're the horrible people that they really are. Human Rights Campaign Press Secretary Brandon Wolf, a survivor of the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting, said after the shooting that blaming trans people was wrong, dangerous, and dehumanizing. And even if, because let's face it, a common denominator for a lot of these shooters is the fact, I think I'm crooked. There we go. Oh no, now I'm crooked. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, even if that's the case, a lot of these shooters, a common denominator is mental illness. And we have to fight so hard to not vilify, to tell people not to vilify mental illness, because somehow people have associated that because all these shooters are probably mentally ill, that somehow all mentally ill people are going to become shooters. And that's not the case. I keep mentioning, yes, I'm definitely, I keep mentioning the case of the fact that most mass shootings involve white men. Or men in general. Should we vilify all white men or all men in general because there were some shootings involving that group? No, that's ridiculous. Most men don't do this stuff. So, most white men don't do this. So, it's the same thing here. Even if it's true that every single one of these shooters were trans, which it's not, even if that were true, that does not justify vilifying an entire group. That's just wrong. Even if it was true, it's still wrong to vilify an entire group just because certain ones committed mass shootings. Just like you can't vilify all white men because most of them do shootings, or vilify all men. It's not the way this works. And why people are willing to do that for a vulnerable minority, but can't seem to understand that it would work the same way with other groups, is just baffling to me. So that is the end of that article. So next up, less fun article. Actually, not fun at all. Burkina Faso bans homosexuality, levying fines and up to 5 years in prison. Burkina Faso's military junta has banned homosexuality 3 years after overthrowing the nation's former government. The 71 unelected members of the junta parliament approved the law Monday, which now awaits the signature of President Ibrahim Traoré, a former army captain who seized power after 2 coups in 2022. The specifics of the ban have not been revealed, whether it applies to same-sex sexual relations or any LGBTQ plus identity broadly. So, I have no idea what the previous Burkina Faso government was like, so I have no idea if these guys are worse, better, the same. I have no clue. The law provides for a prison sentence ranging from 2 to 5 years and a fine. Justice Minister Edessa Rodriguez Bayala announced on state television Monday night, as reported by multiple outlets. A person who engages in homosexual practices will appear before a judge and, in the event of a repeat offense, be deported if you are not a Burkinabe national. So, what are homosexual practices is what I'd like to know. Obviously, sex. And don't even think about marriage. But what else are we talking about? I mean, what else constitutes practices? While LGBTQ plus identities are not widely accepted in the nation, they were not previously outlawed. Well, that answers my previous question. The ban comes as part of the junta's overhaul of marriage laws after usurping power from the country's former military ruler, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba. Human Rights Watch has previously said the 2022 military coup in Burkina Faso was responsible for serious abuses, further degrading the country's human rights and humanitarian situation. So, yeah, it sounds like Burkina Faso is doing really, really well when it comes to the government. Okay. Real stable. There are nearly twice as many countries that criminalize homosexualities than countries that have marriage equality. That's just so shameful. Over 6 countries, 61, have laws making same-sex sexual relations illegal. Most of them are in Africa, which was the majority inheriting their laws from European colonization. And these are the same African countries that will claim that they want to throw off the yoke of the colonizers, and that's their reason to reject homosexuality, where they're accepting the bigoted laws of their colonizers and don't seem to have a problem with that. Those colonial laws remain in place even after the countries that implemented them overturned them, though they're not always actively enforced. Punishments range from fines and imprisonment to the death penalty. While many countries have decriminalized same-sex relations in recent years, others have instead enacted legislation that were previously was non-criminalizing them. Uganda lawmakers passed what has been dubbed one of the world's harshest anti-LGBTQ plus laws last year in 2023, and Ghana advanced a draconian LGBTQ plus criminalization bill in spite of warnings from other nations and world financial institutions. And that is the end of that article, that happy, cheery article. Okay, let's go to something a bit more fun. And that's the ineptness of the Trump administration. Personally, I wish he was more inept because things are pretty scary, but this is still fun. Federal grand jury in D.C. refuses to indict people accused in Trump's crime crackdown. Now, I know of 4 of those. 3 are in one case that they tried it again and again and again, and each time the grand jury said, nope. So let's see what this is about. Federal prosecutors under President Donald Trump's local ultra mega U.S. attorneys are running into an extraordinary roadblock in Washington, D.C. Local federal grand juries won't indict. The latest example came Monday when defense attorneys for Natalie Rose Jones, a woman accused of threatening Trump online, filed a motion in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, noting that a grand jury had returned no bill. Jones has been charged under 2 federal statutes, making threats against the president and transmitting threats in interstate commerce. Now, for those who don't know what a no bill is, that's basically them rejecting the felony charge against this woman. However, in their filing, attorneys from the Federal Public Defender's Office presented a remarkable picture. When the Secret Service agents first approached Jones at her New York apartment on August 15th, she told them she planned to attend a protest in Washington. Okay. They neither arrested her nor discouraged her from traveling. The following day, she met with agents in D.C., repeated that she had no intent to harm anyone, including the president, and even consented to searches of her car and her mental health records, lawyers wrote. She had no weapons and no evidence suggesting she ever tried to acquire one. She was in the city to attend what she called a peaceful demonstration, according to her attorneys. Why do I get the sneaky suspicion that they're going to try to equate this with January 6th? Still, she was arrested based on earlier social media posts and her comments in the interview. A magistrate initially ordered her detained, but U.S. District Chief Judge James Boasberg later released her to home detention. Now, after the grand jury rejected prosecutors' case, her lawyers argue she should be freed outright. Given that finding, the weight of the evidence is weak, they wrote, urging the court to release her on personal recognizance. The Jones case is not an outlier. In recent weeks, grand juries in Washington, composed of residents of a city that voted overwhelmingly against Trump, have turned back at least 6 cases brought under former Fox News host Jeanine Pirro, the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney for D.C., stemming from his administration's federal crime crackdown, NBC News reports. Among them is Sean Dunn, a gay former Justice Department employee accused of pelting a federal officer with a Subway sandwich, whose felony assault charges collapsed in the grand jury room. Okay, this is why I do not like this type of journalism like The Advocate or LGBTQ plus Nation use. What does his being gay have to do with freaking anything? I mean, is that so you can justify this being put in The Advocate? Is that why? I mean, I would think that gay people would want to read about things that don't involve gay people, but that's just me. And I did watch that video of him pelting, and it was a pretty good throw. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, obviously it's a sandwich, so no damage is done. But the officers tried to run after the guy, and he easily outran them. All right. His misdemeanor case, refiled without a jury, has made him a folk hero of sorts, immortalized in graffiti as Sandwich Guy. Because the felony charges collapsed, so they charged him with a misdemeanor. Because technically he did assault an officer. But come on, it's a Subway sandwich. And a lot of people I've been seeing have been having some fun about how grand juries would indict a ham sandwich, but they wouldn't indict. Ugh. Sorry, my microphone almost fell over. But they wouldn't indict the guy who threw a Subway sandwich. Grand juries also refused to indict Alvin Sumners, accused of assaulting an officer, and Sidney Laurie Reed, who faced 3 failed indictment attempts before prosecutors reduced her charges to a misdemeanor. Yeah, that's the other one I was referring to. Sandwich Guy and her. The refusals highlight a rare clash between federal authority and local jurors. Typically, federal prosecutors secure indictments with ease, so much so that a grand jury's rejection is often described as extraordinary. But in Washington, where federal agents and National Guard troops patrol neighborhoods under Trump's orders, jurors appear unconvinced. So that is the end of that article. So, yeah, we had 2 fun ones and 1 not so fun one today. I believe that is all I have for this video. So with that, I will see you guys in the next one.